Hi, I'm Steve Rader Ginsburg, and I'm the director of the Autorino Center for the Arts.
Hi, I'm Steve Rader Ginsburg, and I'm the director of the Autorino Center for the Arts. Hi, I'm Steve Rader Ginsburg, and I'm the director of the Autorino Center for the Arts. Hi, I'm Steve Rader
Got a little echo there. Sorry about that. So, there we go. I think I've corrected the problem there. Well, let's start over again. I'm Steve Rader Ginsburg. I'm the director of the Autorino Center for the Arts and Humanities at the University of St. Joseph in West Hartford, Connecticut, on the original and unceded lands of the Mohegan, Pequot, Scatachok, Golden Hill, Puget, Nipmuc, Lenape, and all the unrecognized Algonquin people of this area. We honor their ancestors, past, present, and future, and recognize their continued existence and contributions to society. I want to thank you for tuning in to our last Music from the Soul series, Virtual Performance and Discussion. Music from the Soul is a tap dance and live music company that blurs the line between concert dance and music performance and celebrates tap's roots in the African diaspora. Thanks to our program funders, the National Endowment for Humanities, the New England Foundation for the Arts, and the Edward C. and Ann T. Roberts Foundation, and those of you who have generously donated to support and make possible this continued free virtual programming. Let me welcome, they're here with me right now, the discussion from Music from the Soul, Leonardo Sandoval and Greg Richardson, the co-directors. I'll be moderating tonight, and you can ask your questions by writing them in the chat below the video, and we'll do our best to answer. Leonardo Sandoval is a Brazilian tap dancer, has established a reputation in the tap world and beyond for his musicality and for adding his own Brazilian flavor to tap. An artist in residence at the National Dance Institute and the American Tap Dance Foundation, and a core member of Dorrance Dance. He is in demand as a choreographer, dancer, jazz musician, and educator, touring across the United States and abroad. Gregory Richardson, music director and co-artistic director, born to a family of musicians where everyone was expected to play and sing. Gregory Richardson is a composer and multi-instrumentalist and the co-artistic director of Music from the Soul. He is also the musical director of Dorrance Dance. Welcome to both of you, and it's so glad to be joining you for our 7th of our series. And we're going to share virtual performance and talk about that. So, Leo and Greg, welcome again, and if you could share with us some of the work you've selected for us to do tonight.
Hi, Steve. Hey, Ray. Yeah, it's our last conversation and slash performance tonight. We select a couple of our works and the works that we've been doing lately. First, we will be seeing the work that we were supposed to bring to USJ, or we will be seeing a couple excerpts of this work called Partido. We're going to see 2 pieces that we actually, if you are like following us throughout those 7 weeks, you kind of saw bits and parts of those performances. One it calls an opener or Jose Swing. The second one is NDI. And that's pretty much it. Greg, you want to say anything about those 2 excerpts? And then maybe we can talk about the next ones later.
Yeah. Well, I'm super excited to get to watch a little bit of a longer clip, like you're saying, Leo, because we've been kind of talking a lot and analyzing things. So I'm excited for our performance version, of this virtual event. This first clip is, I guess, yeah, we have shown a thing we have spoke a little bit about before, but I guess to set it up just a little bit of context, this is the beginning of the show where we're jumping in, and then there's going to be like an edit, right? So it's not actually a continuous clip. So we're going to come in at the blackout, and I guess that things that are interesting to note is that the instruments that the tap dancers are actually playing percussion instruments, and that they're kind of like found instruments, like a plate and a spoon, and as well as some real percussion instruments like the agogo
And the tambourine, yeah.
and the tambourine. So that's cool that the dancers are actually playing instruments, which is part of our theme. We're always trying to like blur this line between that the dancers are part of the band. And there's like a real clear combination of swing and these like Brazilian rhythms, which was kind of an intentional experiment for us, and I thought it came out really well. So I think this is like one of the first times we performed it, right? Like we workshopped it at the yard, and then we performed it and taped it. So it's kind of a young version of it, of the piece.
Yeah, definitely. Well presented. I guess we should just hop in and watch it. Partido.
Oh, yes. Yes, that was so great. Oh my gosh, getting sweaty on the dance floor. It's been a long time
Yeah.
since a place like that could happen. But that was fantastic. Wonderful. So, can you just start us off by talking about your process in creating that piece? What got you there? I mean, there's so much energy and rhythm and style. A lot to talk about in that piece.
You wanna speak, Leo?
I'll hop first, and then you go second, Greg. Um, a lot of the music is drove from specifically for me in that first half of it, like in that first beat of chunk of choreography that we saw in the samba that it's specifically from Bahia, and that is usually played just by percussive instruments, and I was really drove to have just the taps doing that percussive instrument. And like we showed earlier in one of the talks, like I literally stole the main riff of that song from a Caetano Veloso song. And I really enjoy how it sounded with a swing jazz version of it. So yeah, I what drove me to do that thing was this samba from Salvador mainly, and how explore how that would sound with American jazz music. I don't know why I put quote unquote in American jazz music, because that is what we play that with that swing from Jose. It's not a jazz standard because it's a original song, but it's fair. It makes fair to jazz songs for me, at least.
Yeah, that I think that piece, as I was watching it, really highlights the fact to me that I don't think we don't have there's no two pieces that have had the same creative process. Like every single piece that we've come together is we've never settled on a way as like, oh, this is how we work. Every single piece has been different, and that piece is unique because you created that a cappella percussion part at the very beginning, Leo, and only you knew what your motivations for that were, coming from that Caetano Veloso song. And then Jose Cruzata, the saxophone player, actually wrote the swinging jazz part that was the counterpoint in the first half. And so for me, that was a challenge, if you remember, because I was like kind of trying to like figure out how to arrange his piece, because it was really different when we started. Like what originally it was, it was like a rumba and a swing, and it was all these things. So that was challenging. And then the second half of that excerpt, the piece called NDI, that was a little more like lighthearted. We actually wrote for a class for some students at National Dance Institute, which is NDI. And it was just the two of us. It was just Leo and I. And then we expanded it for 6 dancers and 3 musicians. And the question came up in the chat if we were able to use the same ensemble frequently, which I think is interesting to note, that we never have the same ensemble either. And that's not a choice. That's just kind of like when you have really talented people, they're not often always available. Unless you're like kind of like a really big dance company and you're able to say like, hey, this is the retainer, and when something comes up, you're with us. And some companies can do that, but most companies that are in the small to medium range can't really do that. So if you want someone who's really talented, they're going to be really busy, and you might not always be able to get them. And in all 3 of the excerpts that we'll see tonight, you'll see that you're not going to see this. The only people you'll see in every excerpt are Leo, me, Jose, the saxophone player, and Noé, who's the keyboardist and Leo's husband and our company manager. So really, really, we're the only core group. Again, not by choice. And the other thing that I would say as you're watching tonight, if possible, if you're on a personal device, put in headphones or hook up to a Bluetooth speaker or something bigger, because there's a lot of challenges for us. We spend a lot of time trying to mic the tap floor to get all the sounds just right, so it doesn't sound just like clicks and clacks. There's a lot of heel drops with bass and thuds. And also just to hear the bass of the bass guitar or the lower end of the piano or even the deeper rich tones of the tenor saxophone that you'll get more on headphones or like on a Bluetooth speaker than you will just if you're on your phone or your laptop. So I think that's a suggestion will really add to your kind of the performance experience tonight.
Yeah, I'd like to ask about some of that, the sonic quality of the floor. I heard a lot in this piece, and this, for the audience who's watching, this piece Partito was going to be on the Ottorino stage this year, actually, around this time, a little earlier, but so come next year and see it live. But when I heard it, every slide, there was a lot of foot slides. There was a lot of the light tapping and the hard thuds, and you were building all that percussiveness into the floor and mixing it with the band. So when you're creating that in the studio, I can imagine you as co-directors kind of sonically start to meld as one director when you're working with that percussion and building the music. And do you build it all improvisationally, or how much of it is scored before you get to the space? I know we were talking about this earlier, that rehearsal halls, they're expensive to get into. They, to have a band in a tap studio, people don't want that a lot. So, I can only imagine that puts even more pressure on compression in your creation time. So with that compression of time and necessity, how do you build on top of what you have towards the full piece?
Like you're saying, the rules definitely change between Greg and I constantly as we are creating, and the floor is definitely a reason for it. We always have to have a wood floor with us, and that also add a bunch of technical things that we need to think about while rehearsing and while putting a show together, and things that I actually sometimes as a tap dancer don't listen as a regular audience member. So there's a lot of conversations between us in how to work the floor, and each floor it's very different. Specifically for that piece, we were using a tap dance floor that it's from the Yard, the institution that we were performing. So in travel demand, that helped us a lot, but it wasn't our floor. So when we got there, we got to adaptate a lot. It was a different wood material. So yeah, it goes, Greg and I change positions a lot. And I would say the floor is a big reason for it.
Yeah, that tap floor that you just saw from the Yard, those are actually tap mats, right? So those are just like mats. They're really thin that they roll out. They look like they're maybe made out of bamboo, and they roll out in 4x4 sections and tape them together. So that's kind of a compromise, but which goes with what I'm saying. It's that everything is different always. We just have to always be light on our feet and willing to compromise. And a lot of times, we don't really have time to envision it in a theater, and so we're in the theater. And if we're lucky, maybe we have a week beforehand. So we're always just scrappy and running, getting in wherever we can fit in. The next piece that we're going to see was a time at Lincoln Center Education where we had a long residency period where we would get a couple days of a week over multiple weeks. It was actually over months. So we would have a Tuesday and a Thursday here, and then a Wednesday, and they gave us support staff, and we had a real tap floor that was ours that we were able to bring in and install and set up. And we had more time for doing tech and bringing in a lighting designer. So that was more of I'm not even going to say it was better, but it was a little bit more, it's a bit more of a refined experience for us. And I think it might be apparent in the clip. You might hear a difference in what the tap floor sounds like. It's a bigger band, so again, it's a different cast in this next clip. It's from our first show. That's actually called Music from the Soul because we we couldn't decide at that point as a company if that was the name of the show or if that was the name of the company. We weren't sure. And there's a bigger band, so it's still me, but I'm playing guitar. Jennifer Vincent's playing bass, and we still have the same keyboardist, same saxophone, and then we also have a drummer. But the dance crew is actually smaller, right, Leo?
Exactly. Yeah, it's only 3 dancers for this next half, or like the first show that we ever put together. Just 3 of us, me, Brittany De Stefano, who was also in the performance before, and Gerson Lanza, who is not in the show that you just saw it, but it's also a member of the company who is performing a lot, and that goes with what Greg was saying earlier. I believe so. Gerson wasn't in that yard performance because he was doing something else, and it was a schedule thing. Yeah, one thing that I want to point it out, like also as well in this next clip, is that you will see a little bit more of body percussion. Like the first song is Samba do Sol, so there's a lot of body percussion between the dancers. And not just me, like you saw in the last clip, like all the dancers are doing body percussion. A bit more of improvisation between the dancers. And we will feature the bender. Who is the bender? we will feature the band a little more in the second half of the clip with this piece called Trees. There's a little last step. There's a lot of band moments, and yeah, a lot of improvisation, a lot to see. Also, those 2 songs, Getting the Punch, are out in our in all platforms. The songs that we put it out, and we sure advertise it here already. And you will see, if you heard those songs in your MP3 or like in that version, you will see that it sounds a little different than the live version. And I think it's interesting to see the two sides of it. It's 2 different medias, and they work well, I believe. So, Greg, you wanna add anything?
So this clip is Samba do Sol going right into Love Trees.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think interesting to note in Love Trees, and also in the last piece where you saw the woman with the really short hair and the green top doing kind of more like a modern, I guess, would you call that modern solo?
Yeah, modern lyric, free.
Yeah. So free. So or lyric, I like that. So in addition to tap and body percussion, there are other dance forms that find their way onto the stage that aren't even necessarily percussive, and that can also be improvisational. So yeah, you'll see. I think in Samba do Sol, when the improvisation is very clear, because it'll look like more of like a jazz setting where it's like, solo, take it away, and you'll see a person like dancing by themselves or trading with the bassist, and it'll be more apparent like what is improvisational and what's choreography.
Shall we?
All right. Yes. Yes. Very nice. And I saw at the end the singing on the way out. Did it totally change into different sections? And can you tell about the piece overall and what did we see in this section as compared to the whole?
You know what I love about that piece is that we're always talking about our like Brazilian influences and Afro diaspora, but that piece is totally psychedelic. It goes right into at least that last piece, right into like the rock, and a lot of improv. Yeah, I forgot. I think sometimes when we're in the creative process, we say, oh, should we try this? Should we try this? And we kind of egg each other on, and be like, let's just try it. It's crazy. Let's try it. And now when I look back on it, I'm like, wow, we were really going for like a lot of things. I forgot even that I tried to sing on that piece. But yeah, the first piece with the body percussion is called Samba do Sol, and that is a piece that Leo wrote the melody for. And that was a totally unique experience for us, where he wrote the melody and I just fleshed it out with chords and gave it a form. And he just did all the choreography. We didn't really make the choreography at the same time as the music, I don't think, right? We kind of finished the song and then put choreography to it. And what you saw there when the dancers come and stand back with the musicians at the back of the stage was we were kind of like trying to visually reinforce that idea of like, just come back and hold a groove and be part of the band, until it's your turn to go. And Leo and I are talking recently about like, how can we avoid, actually we were talking about it with Xavier, the breaker that we had the conversation with here a couple weeks ago, about how can we change the band relationship to the dancers and not be at the back of the stage, because there's so much space, and especially if you only have 3 dancers and a 40-foot stage, it's like, maybe we should put the band up on the stage and have the dancers dancing in around the musicians. I'm not sure yet, like we're still, but it's definitely something we have our sights on, so that's exciting. And then the second piece, Love Trees, the more groovy, like psychedelic piece, man, I was looking at the video and it said 2015. I can't believe that it's that old. So I must have wrote that like in like 2012 or something, or 2013. It just took that long to come to fruition. And it's like a jazz odyssey. It's long. It's like 12 minutes or something. It has all these different movements in it, and it was adventurous of us to try and put that with tap. But it worked. And I got to give hats off to Dancing Camera that videotaped both of those pieces. They did a great job. You can see what a difference it makes when you have like some really knowledgeable, multiple cameramen moving in and out and like editing it for you, because tap is so intimate. Whereas like, ballet, it's like you could see it from 100 feet away and they're making these smooth lines and it kind of works on a big stage. But tap is like, you want to be up in it. You want to be in the first row. And also Jose Cruzata, our sax player, his improv there is like so killer, man. He's like all the times when he's really like wailing he's just making it up. When he's like playing fast and adventurous, it's like total improv, and it blows me away every time I see it. Other than that, though, I feel like, Leo, tell me if I'm wrong, but you can tell we're like kind of nervous, right? It was like the culmination of our residency there, and we like wished we had like a couple more hours to rehearse, and we knew that that they were filming it that day, and it feels like a little bit like, don't mess up. Do you feel that when you see it, or?
Definitely, yeah. I particularly, I'm not a fan of watching myself dance. So if I know that there is someone documenting that moment, and I will probably have to see it. So, it's not a cycle experience when I'm filming and when I'm watching. So yeah, I can definitely tell that there is a little bit of tension in everybody, but I think it came out good, and Nick definitely, like you're saying, the Dancing Camera found a way to really capture the performance feature of it, like in a video, it's not we didn't perform that for a video, different than the next performance that you will see, but we can talk about that later. Yeah, it was very interesting to see how a good quality video can take you into a performance as well. But another thing that I want to talk into also about those two, watching back to back those two works, is it's funny because the first one that we saw, it's more recent creation than the second one. And through my eyes, I can see how one work is really younger than the other, and you'll see maybe the evolution in this third one that as well, that it's coming. But there is different. There is a language that we have and that we establish as a company, but I can see evolution in our work, not meaning better or worse or anything like that. Like that, this show that you just saw it, I think we were, correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, but when we first thought of that, we were literally seeing as a band show with dance. So it was a song and then a song and then a song and then a song. Some songs were longer than the other, but it was clear, like sections, like a CD playing with visual interactions. Obviously, there was a whole background information between us, but the experience was much more of that. And like in the second work, you can see more of an arc or a narrative deal. Yeah.
Hey, I want to ask you, Leo, because it's in the chat, and I think it's an interesting question. Someone said, while performing, do you ever have messages in your mind you try to convey through dance or music to the audience? And if so, what are they?
Messages in my mind, definitely. I don't think I would say I'm trying to convey them to the audience. Like, I think it's part of the dance, concert dance experience. Maybe for me, I think I'm speaking for my taste, to let every audience member kind of see a narrative, but create their own narrative inside of the narrative that we have, if that makes any sense. There is a story for us, and they kind of can see it, but it's open for their interpretation too as well, and like finding what relates to them. And for me, that makes each experience unique for each member of the audience, because they will find things that respond to themselves. So I am totally pro of hiding what are my real motives, and maybe just give bits and bits of it around. Yeah.
And what about for you, Greg?
I also don't have any message that I'm trying to convey. I think it's definitely been an evolution. What I was thinking in 2015 when we filmed that, I have no idea. But lately, I would say it's more of just centering on three things, really. Like really trying to listen, like really listening to what's going on, like with absolute focus. The second thing would be just like paying attention to my breath, like not breathing intentionally, but just staying conscious of my breathing. And the third thing is kind of like not getting too carried away with my mental, like, kind of a meditation of like, there's so many thoughts coming, like, oh, I'm out of key, or this is wrong, and just like letting them come and go, and trying to, allow yourself to be vulnerable. So it's a very like internal journey. And I think when you're able to focus on those things, people get a lot out of it. It's a very, you are actually communicating a lot. But I don't have any kind of like mantra of like, I know some artists do, or they're like, yeah, I'm trying to like show world peace or something like that. And that's cool, but it's not quite my approach.
What I hear from both of you, correct me if I'm wrong, but I hear that both of you are really, you're what's the word? You're just like, you're getting present. You're really bringing yourself present to each other, present to your band, present to your dancers. And then you're there for the improvisational moments, for the moments just to be alive in that moment. Is that, I hear both of you kind of reflecting that off of each other.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely. Yeah. I think vulnerability is a key element of our company.
Yeah. So let me ask this next question, maybe before we go into the next clip, which bring your vulnerability into this space, because Leo, I want to ask you about Greg, and Greg, I want to ask you about Leo, and I'd like you to talk about each other's directing style. You're both co-directors. We're talking about the making of the pieces. So, Greg, what's it like? How does Leo direct? And Leo, you can tell me how Greg directs afterwards. So, what's he like in the rehearsal room?
Leo's style has actually evolved a lot or changed, over the years. Like, I think there are times we can both be prone to being very stressed out. And that also has to do with that same thing of like, everybody wants to squeeze the most out of the budget they can, yourself and the producers and the promoter, so it's like, you're kind of like, well, if you kind of never quite have enough time or space or money for rehearsals as you do. You're always kind of like trying to do something that's a little bigger than what you have. And so that can be stressful. And I think lately I've seen Leo kind of change into more of like, because we've had some real hurdles with COVID, including how we're here, you know what I mean? But we've had 3 different dancers stuck in Brazil, that they're very much the backbone of the company. And in terms of like stylistic things that can't really be taught, like rhythmic sensibilities and stuff, and just like super cool people that were like devastated that like can't be here for shows and residency, even though we're totally psyched about who is here. So I've seen Leo's style kind of get a little bit more chill, of being like, of just like, let's roll with it. And I think we both are kind of have an agreement where, I know that my true north is like, if something really tickles me, or I'm like I just love it, then I'm gonna go towards that. It might not be the best idea, it might not look the most professional, and so I also try to extend that to Leo, where we definitely have times where we disagree on stuff, but if he's totally psyched about something, he's like, no, I love this, I just want to see where it goes, then I try to make a conscious decision that like we're gonna like see that out. And unfortunately, you can't extend that to everybody in the company. If you have 10 people, you can't. Somebody might be really psyched about an idea, and you can't always do it. But I try to make sure that I allow myself to do that, and not cast doubt on myself, and to allow Leo to do that, not cast doubt and be like, I don't know, that's just weird. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? I feel like if any other company member could come up with some crazy idea, I could be like, nah, I don't think so. But with Leo, I definitely like to see where it goes, and like 9 times out of 10, it's like, oh, I just wasn't seeing it. Like it is awesome,
Thanks, Greg. And it goes both way. I think if thinking of the question that you made, Steve, it's I think we both have a little of the same way of directing, and a lot of that goes because we were directed by someone in the same group, like Michelle Dorrance and Nicholas. So we were under the direction of someone together, and out of that branch we went to direct our company. So that really influences us into like watch out for each other, like both of us. Like I think I look for as much as direction, inspiration into Greg that he does into my style too. And he says he doesn't listen to crazy ideas from other company members. I'm sure he does, and I've been in the room, and like he's very thoughtful and a person who will take an idea and will consider, not just with me, like with everybody in the room, and like trying to make every voice being heard, and actually also use every asset in the room as the best as they can. Like he really digs into like find possibilities for everyone to have their moment to shine, independent if it's a musician or even a dancer. Like I said, our roles go back and forth for so many reasons that I think that's it. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I didn't mean to make it sound like I don't listen to anybody else. Just saying Leo's the one person where it's like that doesn't have anything to do with if we have time or whatever. It's just like we're gonna do it. And I also think that's great that you mentioned Michelle Dorrance and Nicholas Van Young, because they in Dorrance Dance, they're this team. They're this like crazy team, and we both kind of cut our professional teeth in that company, and that's how we learned. We're like, oh, that's how we should do everything. You know what I mean? And it took us a while to realize that that's who we were emulating.
Well, and I also think, you know, you two as co-directors, you're going to be in the room together for show after show, whereas you said sometimes you know, other company members may or may not be there. So that makes so much sense to me, that the trust and really listening deeply to each other and trying each other's ideas. You can't really continue to say no with a long-term artistic partner so much. But prep us now for the next piece and tell us some of that creative process and set the stage for what we'll see next.
I'll go first, Greg. You hop second. It's a piece that I'm excited about. It's our most one of our most recently works. Like it's part of our next large evening show. And this video that you're seeing, it was made a specific inside of the pandemic, and it's made for a video performance. So it has a lot of camera editing, also again from Dancing Camera, a great editing from Dancing Camera. And one other thing that I will highlight is, I think unconscious without conscience, we were kind of rethinking how the band goes into our choreography and our setting, because we are in this specific video, you will see Jose kind of interacting better with the dancers and like going to the floor and moving around, and I think that speaks a little bit what our mind is in relationship with the band and our spacing and how to feature more. Everybody is a equal performer. It's not a band and a dance crew. Those are my thoughts. Probably a lot of things will come after I watch.
Yeah, you're totally right. I hadn't thought of it that way, but it is kind of like we do look much more cohesive in this. You see us as a group. You don't see it as like dancers with a band behind them. And I really like this piece because like he said, we made it for video, and so it's not like we were trying to put on an hour evening length show and record the whole thing. It's like we knew we were going to do these 7 minutes, and so it's much easier to show up and just be prepared, and like not, you know, we weren't trying to like bite off more than we can chew. We were like, oh, we're doing this piece. Let's rehearse this piece for 3 days, and let's go film this piece for 3 days. So we got there, and it wasn't like, hope we get it right, you know, like see you on the other side. It was like, okay, we know how to do this, and that is also something that I think we're hopefully learning to incorporate more into the company, of just like, you know, just smaller bites so that we can kind of master them.
All right. All right. I just really love that whole piece, and I love that ending. How still and quiet it gets at the end. It's like it's such a ride.
I love that. I love that. I haven't watched that for a while. Like that video is awesome. I really, that was exciting to watch.
It doesn't get old. Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while too, and I'm still hyped about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how does you know if somebody says the question like, where do you get your idea for the choreography? It might not be an idea. It might be something from the body. It might be an impulse. It might be a color, an image. Um, so when I say idea, can you break that down for me? Where do you get the impulses to create these pieces from the beginning?
I think the impulse for us, Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's independently, it's always the music. Like either the music that we are doing with the steps or the music that we are doing with Greg. Like it's always a music thing. It's a music idea, and those ideas come from just listening to different types of musics and just songs and just like trying to experience as much as I can. And I say it comes from the music and not from the dancing, because even though when it's like it's an idea that I have of a step, what will drive the whole conversation between Greg and I, it's the sounds that those steps are doing. Obviously, behind that idea, I have an image of how it would look on a stage. But yeah, the mother, like the main motive is the sound, either the taps or a song that we decided to write before putting the choreography on top. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely that, and I would add that it's the cast. It's like who's there. Like that last video was me, Jose, Leo, Noe, and Gisele. Totally unique group. So it's like, what are we gonna do with that? You know, with two dancers and three musicians, and also like just knowing everybody's like really unique skill set. Like I feel like that piece really showcased, I mean, I wouldn't say it really showcased because Noe can do so much more than that, but that was us trying to tap into his classical piano skills a bit, trying to tap into Jose's improv skills, and and I had been working on my arco up in that like top register, which is not really easy for me, but it was something I was kind of working on in that time, and I wanted to try and use. So
Yeah.
it's kind of using for me, it's a big part of, because everything can be conceptual. I can sit and write a huge piece, but it's like, well, what can we actually do when we get in the room together? And it's so much easier to just embrace, let's see what tools we have and use those tools, and not try and squeeze something that we don't have. Don't try and get water out of a stone, as they say.
Yeah. So another thing I noticed in this last piece was it's just like joy exuded. You were outdoors, it's beautiful settings, everyone was smiling at each other. And it was a little different than some of the indoor dark theater stuff that we saw. But if you think about a jazz musician kind of like can be very flat faced when they're playing, dancers flat faced. What's your philosophy as directors, in terms of like letting expression come out? Is it something you pay attention to, or you just let it be what it is? And when do you feel the most joy in this process?
I'll just jump in. I think this piece, we had just finished a 2-week residency up at Catspan. Big shout out to them, and to Works in Process at the Guggenheim for funding it. And this was our like last hurrah, and we were getting ready to say goodbye. We knew when we finished that piece that everybody was going their own ways, and we were going back to COVID, back to masks, back to not having dinner with each other. So that it had a real special emotional weight. Like that day, It was like the exclamation point. Yeah, I'll go ahead, Leo. You go. That's it.
Yeah, it was a combination process, especially like I guess you can really see the joy in that piece, because for so long we haven't been together, dancing together, and we went through a bubble residency for like 2 weeks to literally live, and it was very intentional. and very emotional to all of us. It was like the first time in months that we were like dancing together, playing music together, and creating something together. And that piece and another one that they kind of go together, and you will be able to see if you come to one of our future performances. It really takes the essence and the feelings that we were having at that space, and I think that's why it translated so well. But there is not like a direction of you have to smile or this is the emotion that we are aiming for this song. I think it's clear for us because the process is really personal, not just for me and Greg, but for everybody who is in the process, that they kind of understand the feeling of the song, the feeling of the song and the dance as we are creating and passing through them and choreographing. So the emotions that are being expressed, I think on the stage are very fair to the emotions that were happening in the room or in the creation. I think that's the how we show emotions on the stage. There's not a direction. All that to say.
And don't you think, Leo, that like that comparison that Steve's making between like being in the theater and being more serious, like that's real. And I think sometimes it's not even conscious. Sometimes the bigger the stage is and the more important it seems, and you're like, oh, now we're at City Center, or now at this place, without anyone giving direction, everyone starts to just assume like, better be serious, better stand up straight, like this is the real deal. And I think our performances go a lot better when we're not really trying to do that, because it's more sincere. When we, not that we ever try to be like, break character or anything like that, but more to play the way that we actually practice, and to play the way that some bands actually do, where it's like, it's okay to like talk and be like, hey, like back to the chorus or whatever it is, or like, hey, nice solo even, or just laughing or saying whoops or whatever, like I think for me personally, it's helpful to try and remember that like that is okay, and even really sometimes communicates so much more to the audience through that sincerity than trying to be like super proper because you think you're doing something important. And I actually have to remind myself to not do that unless I'm trying to, because I'll default to being like really somber depending on like where we are, the bigger the stage.
Yeah, it's kind of just like what we were talking about before in the last piece with being real present, like present and in the moment. And how do you accept the moment?
So, and sometimes presence can be somber too, sometimes like that deep meditation state of like, I'm really listening, I'm really into that, it's not quite, doesn't come off as casual.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine too.
Yeah. Well, I think we're just about at our time here, and I do want to, recognize there's a number of students watching tonight, and I'm thinking on their behalf, I'd like to ask you about some of the lessons you've learned as co-creators, moving from a company, working sort of in Doran's Dance, both of you, as you said, learning and getting some mentorship there, and then starting your own company, Music from the Soul. And now you've been doing that for a few years. So what are some lessons you've learned with bridging to your own company, finding your own creative voice, and where do you have yet to learn and grow? What are your inspirations, and do you keep training? Are you going to classes? Any thoughts on those questions? I know I asked a few.
I'll go. I'll tell you one easy thing right off the bat is be on time. I know it sounds like a joke, but if you can be where you say you're going to be, when you stick to your commitments, you say you're going to, the rehearsal's at 2 and you show up and you're prepared, people will hire you. You don't have to be the best. You don't have to be the smartest or like the child savant. I promise. Just be on time and like show up and be prepared, and you'll get work. And I guess the other advice I would give is, like I think just to follow your inspiration. Like that sounds kind of cheesy too, but follow your bliss. Like whatever is like really interesting to you, that's probably what you're gonna like succeed at the most in terms of your artistic voice.
Yeah, it's kind of goes in the same way what Greg was saying. Like the be on time is such a great way to putting. It's just be professional and like really really on your work, because most of the times it's not even like about what you can do, and it's about your personality and how you work around in a room with other people, and that's very important. Obviously talent is good too, but there's lots of talented people, and we all can learn a skill and practice. If you really practice, you can develop. One other thing that I would add is like really understanding that any work, it's not a one person work. Like again, Greg and I are here talking about this company, but there is so many layers that go into this work that I would definitely not be possible to make it happen by myself, or just me and Greg, or even just me and Greg and Noé, who is a huge arm of our company. I understand that everybody's when I say that it's a group work, and we're like, oh yeah, obviously everybody's on the stage, so it's a group work on the stage, but it's not just there. Like it's a group work in every single sense that you can ever imagine. Like it's you have to rely on people, so try to surround yourself with people that you like to work, and like that you will that will hear you, that will enjoy you and understand your necessities, and be open to know and learn about other people too as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. Well, those were such good words of wisdom, and I think they're great notes to close on here. We've had an amazing 7-week run with you guys visiting us. I wish you could hear and feel the community here in Connecticut. We've had hundreds and hundreds of people tune in and listen to you. There's tremendous amount of people right now, and you can't hear them clapping and feel their hearts going out to you. So just know, even though we're on this platform here, that there's just a lot of people who are really touched by your presence and joining us in Connecticut. Your talent is amazing. We can't wait to have you on stage as soon as possible and be up here in flesh and blood and with us in Connecticut and bringing your talents. So may you find success with getting together, having space, and rehearsing again, and making this important work that's so good for the SOUL from your SOLE.
Thanks, Steve.
I made that up on the spot. I didn't even plan that.
No, that wasn't written. And thanks to all the people who are behind the scenes on your end too, you know, that we don't always see, but Kevin and Susan, and absolutely. I know it's not just you that's making all this happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you everyone. We're gonna miss seeing Steven for every
see you live. We will definitely perform at USJ live, and it's gonna be really an extra special show with so much backstory to it. So
absolutely.
Yeah, looking forward for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.